Okay, so we're gonna move into our next panel, our second panel of the day, which is titled In Conversation with Leaders, the Inside Scoop from Public Officials. So I'm so excited to introduce Christina Middlebrooks, who is gonna moderate and guide us through this amazing conversation today. So let's give Christina a warm round of applause as she makes her way to the stage. Christina is a sophomore at Princeton University, where she's studying in the School of Public and International Affairs on a pre-medical track. Currently, her positions within the NAACP include secretary for the NAACP New Jersey State Conference Youth and College Division. And she's a student leader for the reactivation of the NAACP Princeton University chapter. Christina was present when the historic vote to lower the voting age in Newark happened, and she participated in the press conference. So warm round of applause for Christina, and we're gonna hand the mic over to her.
Thank you so much. And now I have the honor to introduce all of our panelists for this next session. First up, we have New Jersey Senator Raj Mukherjee, representing the 32nd District comprising of Hudson County. And before becoming senator, he was an assemblyman for 5 years, starting at the age of 28. And he is a prime Senate sponsor for the Vote 16 New Jersey bill. Please introduce me in giving him a warm welcome. Thank you. Next up, we have Assemblywoman Cleopatra Tucker, representing the 28th Legislative District, including South Orange, Maplewood, Newark's West and South Wards, and Hillside. She has been an Assemblywoman for 16 years. She knows the importance of the youth vote, and she is a prime sponsor from the Assembly for the Vote 16 New Jersey bill. Please help me in giving her a warm welcome. Next up, we have Councilman Patrick Council. He has been a council member for the City of Newark, representing the South Ward since July of 2022. Not only was he a sponsor for the ordinance in Newark that lowered the voting age to 16 for school board elections, he was a part of the unanimous vote that made this ordinance law. And last but not least, we have City Clerk Keisha Daniels. Clerk Daniels is an attorney and the city clerk for Newark, New Jersey. She is also the first woman to serve as a municipal clerk for the largest city in the state of New Jersey. One more time, let's give a warm welcome to all of our panelists. Ooh, so I'm so excited that I get to be a part of this amazing panel. And let's just get into it. So my first question is for Senator Raj Mukherjee and Assemblywoman Tucker. What has been the biggest challenges and opportunities in gaining support for the statewide bill to lower the voting age, and how are you navigating opposition to this effort?
You want to go first? You want me to go first? Okay. I think it's not so much about overcoming opposition as it is creating an appetite to prioritize and shepherd this bill into law. Because there's thousands and thousands of bills pending in the state legislature at a given time, a small percentage of which actually ever get a committee hearing, an even smaller percentage of which actually get posted for a vote on the floor by the General Assembly or the Senate. It's a matter of making sure that, as we walk and chew gum, that this doesn't fall victim to not being one of the bills that gets all the way through. So it means that we have to get our colleagues as excited as Assemblywoman Tucker and I are about the bill and communicating the importance, the fact that chronically low turnout, like 3 to 7% in school board elections like we saw in New Jersey in 2023 is belied by the fact that the youth turnout in the 2020 presidential election of young voters of age was 67% in New Jersey. It was the highest in the country. New Jersey led the nation in terms of 18 to, it might have been 24-year-old voters participating. So there is the potential to help with chronically low turnout in school board elections, to make sure that young voters have a say when school board elections used to have, school board meetings used to have thoughtful debate. They've given way to bonkers debates about CRT and culture wars and mask mandates and rolling back protections for certain groups of students and all this kind of other stuff. That this is the time, if ever we needed, to uplift the high school juniors and seniors most directly impacted by the decisions by these school boards. This is a time to let them do it. So that would be, I think, that's what we have to communicate to our colleagues. And I think that we're getting there. We're getting more and more people interested in it. Madam Chair?
Well, I was like interested in this particular situation because I think that having our young people a part of the school board elections would help increase the interest in the school, have them work with the students with what they like or what they want to discuss, and not just be an adult thing that we have to tell you what you have to do. I think you have a right and a say-so in everything that happens in your schools, and participate in everything and not be left out to just do what some elected adults and teachers and other adults have to say for you to do. I think it's your right, and that you can be able to make decisions as well as the adults, because you know what you want better than we do. Because being a young voter is very important. And since Newark was first, and as always, Newark is always first in doing everything, I just wanted to make sure that I brought this to the state level to make sure that we could get this done throughout the state of New Jersey, so we can say New Jersey is the state where we allow young 16s and 17 years to vote in the school board election and have an opportunity to voice their opinion and participate in the process.
Thank you so much. Next up, I would like to ask Councilman Pat Council, now that the ordinance has passed in Newark, what steps do you see as crucial in ensuring its smooth implementation and encouraging youth to turn out?
First of all, I want to thank everyone for inviting us to this summit today to really deal with some of these vital issues. Twofold. One, I think working not just with our city clerk, but the county clerk to ensure that all measures are in place as the rollout and implementation to get all of our folks who are 16 and 17 years old engaged in the process of voting is vital. And so we want to continue to work along with our clerk's office as well as the county clerk to make sure that those systems are in place so it does not cause frustration or oppression, right, for our 16 and 17-year-olds who are looking for a place to register, and making that process as simple as possible, be it via paper or through technology. So I think that is critical right now for that to happen. And then I think secondly is to begin to continue as you are doing now in this kind of space to force engagement from the school district to ensure that they are having this kind of engagement with all of their student government participants. They're having roundtables and talking about how they're going to begin to make this explosion possible in terms of Newark voting, right? Newark Youth Vote in 2024, which is important in April, that you can begin to change the landscape of what happens in your district, come up with a formative plan of action through organization and ensuring that your voice is heard through each and every person that says they want to serve you on the Newark Board of Education.
Yes, I agree. I think we heard from the governor earlier that we want to pass 2.3%, which was the last turnout for the school board elections. So we have a goal that we're going to strive for and definitely get that vote turnout. Next up, I wanted to ask City Clerk Keisha Daniels, how will your office manage the implementation of voter registration for 16 and 17-year-olds? And what do you foresee as the biggest challenges in this process?
That's a huge question. And so there's so much logistics behind making this happen that I really want to thank everyone that pushed the initiative, because government tends to work really, really slowly. So I am just as surprised as everyone to find out that we're going to be able to do this coming April, because that is lightning speed, and you all should be very excited about that. So when it comes to challenges, the biggest challenge is just communicating, just making sure that students are aware that they have this right to participate in this process. You spend so much time in school that you would think that this would be a no-brainer, that you would be able to participate in the leadership on the school board level. But every speaker that has mentioned before, some of the naysayers that came before the council that said that you're not entitled or you're not ready, or people are just intimidated by the mere thought of young people getting involved, it was really disheartening. So I'm super excited this morning to see everyone here and the amazing challenge ahead of us, that I feel energized that we're going to be able to do it because it's necessary, it's time, and you all should be excited about the history that you're making.
Thank you so much. Yes, I feel inspired. But I think one thing I took away was communication is key, even on the government level. So just making sure that we have that open communication to make sure everything runs smoothly. My next question is for Senator Raj Mukherjee and Assemblywoman Tucker. Looking ahead, what strategies are in place to build momentum for this bill? And what timeline do you envision for moving through the legislative process?
Okay. Well, the timeline is that we have to go through committee hearings in both houses. So we've already asked the chair of the different committees to put this bill up for a committee hearing. Once we have the committee hearing and it passes through both of the Assembly and the Senate, we are going to ask the governor to, we're going to ask the speaker, rather, to put it up for a House vote for the entire Assembly, and in the Senate it will be the same thing. Once that is done, we're going to send it over to the governor's desk, and he is already saying that he's interested and he's going to be able to sign the bill. Our job is to convince, my job is to convince the people in the Assembly to sign on to the bill, support the bill, and vote for the bill. And so we have separate, he has the same job in the Senate, and we know by communications, talking and having the committee hearings, and just talking in caucus, the need for this. And we just wanted to say that who knows better some of the needs that the students need other than the student. So we're gonna ask you to come down to our committee hearing so you can voice your opinion in front of the committee that's gonna be hearing the bill. So when my bill comes up in the committee, I want you to come down to Trenton, all of you, so they can see how important it is and what we need to do. If you stay away, they're going to think it's not important. Oh, this is just something they're going to do in Newark. Well, we want to let them know that just because we are first, We want to take everybody with us. We don't want to, no young person between the ages of 16 and 17 should be left behind in voting for what they want and need in the school board election. So that's my feeling, and I'm going to work very hard in the assembly to make sure this bill gets passed out of the assembly and goes to the floor in the assembly for a vote.
So on strategy, overcoming the hesitation that some of our colleagues in the Senate and the Assembly have about this bill can be accomplished by pointing to the data and by the counter arguments. Because when you ask, well, what's your hesitation? What's your hesitation about enfranchising 16 and 17-year-olds? What's your fear? They're too young, they're not gonna be informed enough, mature enough to make these decisions? Let's see. We can point to the fact that multiple Latin American countries, multiple European countries, Germany, Norway, Estonia, Austria, Scotland, have been doing this. We have data that we can point to. Scottish youth that participated in their pilot program to enfranchise 16 and 17-year-old voters, they, for years later, were more engaged in their democracy than any other age group, and that was across socioeconomic classes. In Tacoma Park, Maryland, when 16 and 17-year-olds were first enfranchised in the local election there, here in the United States, they voted at 4.5 times the rate of older voters. Even in subsequent elections in Tacoma Park, the rate of 16 and 17-year-olds participating was double their turnout rate of older voters. So we can point to the empirics, we can point to the data, no harm has resulted. On the other hand, we're improving turnout, we're instilling a lifelong habit in people, which means it will last with them as they get older. And one thing that people didn't expect happened after the Vietnam War, when 21 was the voting age throughout the United States. And we realized, you know what, we're sending people off to war to defend our country in uniform and bear arms in defense of our country at 18, at 17. I enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was 17 because I was an emancipated minor. It was right after 9/11. And yet, they're not old enough to vote, to participate in their democracy in this most fundamental way. So there was the constitutional amendment that lowered, the 26th Amendment that lowered the age to 18 after Congress couldn't do it by statute. There was a Supreme Court case that said they could only do it in federal elections and not at state and local elections. The voting turnout rate dropped. We saw a decline. Because when you're leaving the nest and you're independent for the first time in your lives as an adult, you know, and you're in your dorm, and maybe there are more dishes in the sink and, you know, laundry undone. I mean, not every 18, 19, 20-year-old is going to be like our moderator, is going to be like the people in this room, and they don't have that level of trust or faith in their politicians, in their public servants, in their democracy. So turnout has seen a decline. And when they do vote, it's in presidential elections. It's not in state and local elections, school board elections. And so when we point that out and say, you can reverse that decline when you enfranchise 16 and 17-year-olds while they're still at home and in that environment before they've left the nest, that habit will last. And we're not speculating here. We have the data from other jurisdictions to show it. So the strategy is about taking our colleagues one by one and saying, what else you got? Well, it's a slippery slope. We let them vote in school board elections. Next thing you know, you're going to be wanting them to vote in other elections. Yeah, hell yeah, that's the point. 16 and 17-year-olds should be enfranchised, should be able to vote in every election in our democracy. So let me not sneak that up on you. I want to show you that the sky will not fall when we do it. The way Newark is leading the way, leading the charge, and I salute Mayor Baraka. I see you in the audience, Your Honor. That is the point. We want to show you the sky will not fall when we allow this for school board elections where it matters the most, because we're going to give these high school juniors, seniors a chance to defend democracy, to defend facts, to fight back against book bans and rolling back protections for transgender students where they're most directly impacted. And then when you see that only positive impacts will result, then we can talk about enfranchising them in other types of elections, because that's my goal. Let me not, skirt around that.
Thank you so much. I mean, I feel like invigorated, excited. I heard a call to action that when we have committee hearings, we need to show up and show out as youth. So everyone in this building and in this room, when those committee hearings come out, we need to show up and show out for her. So we need to be in that room. And then I also heard that this is not the end. So don't see Vote 16 New Jersey and just local school board elections as the only thing that we can do, but that this is just the start and this is just the beginning. So that's really exciting to see what the future might be like. And then I have a closing question for all the panelists here. Are there any final thoughts you want to share with the attendees?
Yeah, I would just like to say, first and foremost, don't start something if you don't want to be engaged in it, right? And so you have to understand movements and lives were given up for the right for people to vote. Bloody Sunday was not fake, it was real. Medgar Evers being gunned down in the driveway of his home in front of his wife and children was not fake, it was real. The death of Dr. King was not fake, it was real. The killing of Schwerner, Goodman, and Swartz was real in Mississippi for the right to have people vote. And so this push that you're doing is going to come with some agitation. And because times have changed, it does not mean that methods won't change to try to suppress or push or move you down. But what it should do is encourage you to organize even more, to come up with a plan of action and begin to control the narrative in that plan. And to me, it starts right here in April, right, where you get an opportunity to make your voice heard, to be able to stand up strong, to hear issues, to push issues, and to come up with a plan, an agenda to be able to say, these are the things that we're looking for our school districts to do, very intently and specifically to individuals who are looking for re-election or to be elected to the Board of Educations, wherever you may be, and then to organize people, your constituents, to get out and vote and not be afraid to do it in a way that it speaks loudly and boldly. It doesn't matter if it's through agitation, doesn't matter if it's through rallies and movement, but you have to be willing and forceful to do those things. So this is just not about coming together, making sure that you have a nice wrap and a bag of chips, but it is about really organizing and being really laser beam focused on the intention and intent of what it is that you have to do, and not just showing up, but showing up with purpose, right? Because a lot of times we can be present and absent at the same time.
I ditto every comment you made, Councilman Council. What I'd like to say to everyone in the audience is stay engaged, spread the word, recognize your power. You have brought to the table every legislator from the federal government, state government, county government, municipal government. We're here. We're listening. We're engaged. So you stay engaged. Thank you.
I'd just like to say it's an honor to be able to say I'm going to work hard so a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old could have the right to vote in a school board election and go further. My story is a little different because I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and I had to struggle for the right to vote. I had to go take a test in order to have the right to vote. All we asking for is a vote from the Assembly, the Senate, and make this a law and have our governor sign that the 16 years old have a right to vote in school board elections, and further on, we may be able to move it further to a general election. But it's just exciting to know that I had a chance to say that I'm working on a bill that says a 16 and a 17-year-old have a right to vote. When I was growing up in Birmingham, Alabama, I had to wait till I was 18. I had to take a test to get the right to just cast the vote. And the funniest thing is when I came to Newark, the first thing I wanted to do was become a registered voter. I went down to the Hall of Records, and I went in and I asked, where do I take the test to become a voter? And they looked at me, and they said, a test? I said, yes, you have to take the test. And they said, no, sweetheart, all you have to do is fill out this paper. I stood there and cried. So it's my pleasure, and I'm going to do everything I can do to make sure that you all get the right to vote in the school board elections, and we have to take it further. We're going to take it all the way.
Assemblywoman, roughly what year was that when you had to? No. I'll tell you why I'm asking. I mean, it's seriously. Do you remember how long ago it was that you had to take the test to vote in Alabama?
Oh, that was. Well, I'm 81 years old now. I can't. So I was at that time in Alabama. You had to be at least 18.
60, maybe 62, 63 years ago.
Yeah, and back in the 60s.
You hear that story, and you realize that in 2024, there are states in this union where they are continuing to put up obstacles 62, 63 years later for people of color, for American nationals to be able to vote. Cast the ballot, go to the polls, participate in their own democracy. Instead of making it easier to enfranchise people, they are passing laws in state legislatures that will make it harder for people to access the voting franchise in 2024. So, my parting words would be this. The call to action, allies are important. It's important for adults who already have the voting franchise. It's important for parents. It's important for all of us to help secure this franchise as it's been important in the past when we've expanded the voting franchise. Allies are important. Women could not have secured the right to vote if men didn't join them in the struggle. But at the end of the day, nothing will be more impactful to a policymaker, to a lawmaker, than advocacy from the folks who are presently disenfranchised. If we're going to enfranchise somebody and give them the right to vote, we need to hear, my colleagues, Cleopatra's colleagues, need to hear from 16 and 17-year-olds. Because there's no better way to overcome the notion that these younger potential voters are not only mature enough, they will be better informed in participating in their civic duties than even older voters. I've seen that when we've talked to 16 and 17-year-old advocates for the bill. Raise your hand if you are 16 or 17 years old. You all need to make sure that this movement is spreading to other high schools throughout the state. Use the power of Instagram and TikTok. I've been on Instagram. I just opened a TikTok, and this bill was what I had in mind. I don't care if Xi Jinping goes into my phone. He's going to see a bunch of, like thousands of selfies that my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old take of themselves when they steal my phone. So the idea, and follow me, it's RAJMUKHERJI. The spelling is in the thing since I just joined. But the point is, you need the movement to spread to these other high schools so those 16 and 17-year-olds can do what you're doing in your home districts and talking to their state legislators. Because guess what? Even if they can't yet vote, their parents are already of voting age. And our colleagues in the state legislatures, we will take a meeting with somebody who lives in our district before a lobbyist, before a donor, before a professional advocate, because you all are constituents, are voters, or the children of voters, and hopefully future voters. So make sure that your classmates, your peers, are advocating before their home district legislators so that when she and I go and talk to our colleagues, it's not the first they're hearing about it. They will have heard about it from people in their hometowns, in their districts, who care, whose rights are directly affected by being denied the voting franchise until this bill becomes law, and it will become law. Thank you for your advocacy.
Thank you so much. And now we have a little bit of time for some Q&A. So I just want you guys to, if you can, just shout out some important issues or something that you would like us to talk about from any of the panelists here. Anybody? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Come here.
This is a great panel of folks from different levels of government, so thank you for being here. My name is Isaac Jimenez. I'm a member of the Votos para Todos campaign, which is a hybrid of both youth and non-citizen voting. There is low turnout, and especially like the cities, like New Brunswick, Elizabeth, Newark, Jersey City. What are some of the things with the youth vote that you would want to use it for to pass legislation or policy that you think you need youth behind? Like, what is something that you need the youth vote for? Because if we can raise the turnout, that's great, but then what do you need it for? What are some of like the policy things that we want to get done? And just as an example, in the city of Newark, we tried to pass a resolution for a ceasefire, and we figured if we had more youth or more non-citizens voting, we'd probably have gotten that. But what is something that you think with this youth voting you could achieve in your respective parts of the state?
Yeah, first and foremost, all politics are local, right? Before you start anywhere, you start from this local branch, and everyone has to recognize that when you have an opportunity to be given something, then every matter counts. Right? It's just no specific thing that you can pinpoint, because every single day people are making decisions about other people's lives, right? Unemotionally, right? And it becomes critical to get engaged in every aspect of it, right? So let's just take in consideration that at this moment you control $1 billion school board. At this moment, the city municipal budget is close to $1 billion. At this moment, the county budget is close to $1 billion. And so every creative, imaginative thing that you can think about that your voice needs to be heard in is right in front of you, that is attached to resources and opportunities that you need. And if you know that somebody has something that you need, you have a responsibility to go and get it. And if you don't, and if you sit on the sideline while other people go and get it, then you can't feel like you've been engaged enough in that argument to really look at what it is that's going to help you get across the finish line. And so it doesn't matter if it's from the state level or the municipal level. Young people are needed in this engagement. Young people are needed in this process because it helps to shake the roof. It helps to shake the very fabric of what needs to happen, right? We have to continue to agitate. We have to continue to study. We have to continue to be engaged and involved in all of the aspects of what is happening. Because one, if somebody believes that your voice is not good enough, if your voice is good enough to have a summer job and to work, then your voice should be good enough to be able to vote. If your voice is good enough to be able to come out and to rally and hang up posters and do other things for other people, then your voice is good enough to be able to vote. And understanding the necessities of everything that you need is planted in your right to vote. And that's why we have to get out and we have to be engaged and vote.
Hi there, thank you. Hudson Stelmack from Livingston High School. So I have a question about how implementation would work in towns where school board elections are not separate from general elections. That's been a major concern for our town council. It's been their most major concern. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on how it can be achieved.
Sounds like a city clerk question. So our elections are a little different than your town. And when you talk about implementation, just taking, for example, the work that's ahead in Newark, we have to work with our county partners and state partners to create ballots so that people are informed that they can register to vote. We have to program machinery. That's not my job, but at the state level, machines have to be programmed, ballots have to be sent out, people have to be notified. So those are some of the logistics. When it comes to any other town, it's the same type of work that's involved, but just some of the nuances that you talk about are things that have to be worked out at the government level. So your legislators will have to work through that, just like we're working through having to implement this law. Like, it was passed in January, and it's not even going to see, real movement until over a year later. You're talking about 2025. So that's what I mean by government working slowly, but those are some of the issues that all towns, struggle with.
And to help you out a little bit, right? Because I'm getting what you're saying, right? So if our school board election is caught up in a general election, right? How do I make my voice heard? So there were some school board elections that are independent. Some are not in November with general elections, and then there are some that are held in April. So I'm not. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So part of what the clerk talked about is definitely correct. The other part is it gives you an advantage as young people who are organizing to get your voice heard in a general election, because now it creates an atmosphere that makes people respond to you in a greater way, because they recognize now that they can link you in with some other things that are happening in the general election, right? So I'll give you an example. We have a general election that's coming up November the 5th, right? Presidential election, very important election. We want to encourage and get everybody to get out and vote. But now at the same time, possibly in your municipality, there's an opportunity for 16 and 17-year-olds to be engaged in that school board election. So it would be the benefit of individual parties to meet ahead of organized young people that are engaged and processed and ready to go out and ensure that their voice is heard in the school board election, but that those same constituencies will want to make sure that those organized young people are trying to address some of the issues that they may have on the Republican side or on the Democratic side. And now, as an organized group of people, how do you organize around the leverage of that? So you have to understand, as young voters and 16 and 17 years old, you're creating a space of leverage that's going to help you carry across many bridges back and forth, and you have to organize around that and get the people to realize it and pull it out at the same time. And you'll see that you have more people coming to you in November elections than even you may have in separate school board elections that may be held in April.
The last one back here, Christina.
Hello, my name is Nason Carr, inaugural president of the Rider University NAACP and second vice president of the New Jersey State Conference Youth and College Division. So my question is, how can college students on college campuses better support young people's rights in this movement?
Okay. So, one way in which college students can be allies to 16, 17-year-olds in this movement for this franchise is email and call 2 sets of legislative offices. That means 1 senator and 2 assembly people times 2, where their college is based and their home zip code. You're a constituent of both. Use the different address when you write to each set. But they can write and call their legislators, state senate and assembly people, and say, will you please ask the Senate president in the case of the senators, the Speaker of the Assembly in the case of the assembly members, to post the bill and include the bill numbers and ask for these legislators to get on board, to sign on as a co-sponsor and ask for the bill to be posted. If they hear this from just 5, 6, 7 people, we're gonna get a hearing in committee. And then after that, when the data and the facts present themselves and so many of you and your colleagues, high school and college students come and testify, then it'll move on to a floor vote. So that would be, I think, the way in which college students can be most helpful is by directly calling and emailing their legislators in 2 districts, home and on campus, and asking them to ask leadership to post the bill. And to go back to our first question, actually, about what kind of things will we be able to achieve if we have more youth participating and if we have more enfranchised? What will that enable us to do? What is the end game? Everything ranging, at least speaking for myself, from 100% clean electricity standard and climate legislation helping us fight climate to at least a true public option for health care in New Jersey if we can't do Medicare for all, which requires the federal counterparts to act, to making sure we go further than just protecting reproductive autonomy. We need to make sure that we're not discriminating based on socioeconomic class or ability to pay. Protecting a woman's rights and birthing people's rights over their own bodies only goes so far if they're able to access that care. I mean, all of these are types of things that we ought to be able to move when Democrats control both houses of the legislature and the governor's office, and yet we can't. There are a number of progressive bills that, in order to move them, we need to have more of a push from it, and that will come, I think, if we see more young people enfranchised and participating. It will help move the party from within, and the types of things that we're fighting for and the types of things that we're prioritizing. And that was just a few. I could give you a long list of things that I think could move if we had sufficient numbers of constituents championing that.
So one of the things that I think we should do, and that's like right away, is we can get a group of you young people to come to Trenton during a voting session and have your demonstration outside and a rally outside of the State House to let them know that you're serious. We're not playing games. We're serious. We want the 16 and 17-year-olds to have the right to vote in the school board elections. Once we get that done, then we can work along the way to others. We have to take it one step at a time. But I'm encouraging you to start. We're in session now. You can look at the schedule to see when is the voting session, the next voting session, and get a group plan to come down and that day to participate. And when they see you outside, you know, they're going to be amazed that, oh, really, these young people are really out here demonstrating. If everybody else can come down there and demonstrate on what they want to demonstrate, you have that same right. Exercise it. Please come.
I wanted to say something real quick to the brother back there from the NAACP about your question about what young people should do that's on the campus. One is threefold. The first thing is you got to organize yourself on the campus, because sometimes we get on these college campuses and we get a little lost. And we begin to think that the campus just becomes our total surrounding, and we don't know that there are things that are around us that we have to embark in and engage in that is immediately in front of us. And so once you begin to organize that way, you should have a responsibility. It doesn't matter what campus you're on, if it's here at Rutgers, if it's NJIT, to be able to organize and find out the student government organizations that are in the city in which your campus is located, and to begin to organize them, meet with them, talk to them about issues, platforms, and challenges that they may be having on their levels and what it looks like from a collegiate level down to the high school level, and then how they can be able to organize around that, because the best people and voice to look at and to deal with is other young people, because it's hard for older people to come in the room and want to try to organize young people around innovative and thoughtful ideas that they have without getting caught in some of the stuff that they want to use, and then use some of the other organizations that are around. I know the Abbott leadership is around and some other organizations that are around, but to really begin to push that up and push the narrative, not just about voter registration, but voter education, right? What does voting look like, right? What's the process around that? That should be the role for the folks on these campuses, teaching voter education and why it's important to be engaged and be involved. Because every single day, let me tell you, there are some people who are very emotional about stuff that's happening, but every single day when folks from the state legislator or the municipal legislator, when they sit down and have to vote on things, they can't vote emotionally. And their vote every single day is changing or moving the trajectory of somebody's life, for better or for worse. I want you to hear that. Every single day, when there is a vote from the state legislator, from the assembly, from your local council people, your school board representatives, they can't deal in emotionalism. They don't have the opportunity to think about emotionalism, because they are focused on trying to make life-changing decisions. And it is either going to be for the betterment of your life, or it's going to do something that sidetracks you. That's why this election in November is pivotal. That's why everyone should be encouraged and motivated around this thing, because it carries those same two notions. That somebody is going to move to make the choices of your life better, or to set you back in a trajectory that will be harmful and demeaning. And that's why we engage. That's why we talk and move people to be able to get them to a point of understanding why it's important to be involved in voting.
Thank you so much. Sorry, technical difficulties. But I would like you to join me in giving a standing round of applause for all of our panelists. Thank you so much for coming out and really just sharing some of your insights with us. We're so happy that you guys represent us on all levels across New Jersey. Thank you.